Serious, what is an experience that is near impossible to explain to anyone who hasn't gone through it? Going in for major heart surgery. Nothing quite like having to willingly make a future date to have your heart stopped while you're out cold, weeks in advance. Kinda makes you want to be totally prepared for anything. Ick now, like never waking, etc. I had bypass surgery. I was nervous for days before it, but the morning when I was at the hospital, I was very calm and relaxed. Don't know why. Remaining in an abusive relationship. Poverty. It's not just having food and a roof over your head. It's about being stuck in one place trying to keep those two things. As someone who struggled for years and years, this might be the best one-line explanation I've ever heard. People always want to sit you down and give you money management advice because they seem to think that's the problem. I would always say, I'll be happy to discuss buying fire insurance from you once I've put out this house fire. Wow, these are all depressing. I had exchange students at school who had never seen snow before. We happened to have snow that winter and there was much enjoyment. Finally, a comment that made me smile in this thread. Anxiety disorders. It's more than having a lot on your plate or having a ton of work to do. A lot of people associate it as just being stressed out, but it's more than that. It really takes a toll on you mentally and physically because your brain is always on high alert and you can't stop it. It's like being stuck in fight or flight mode. It's utterly exhausting, and it breaks you down mentally and physically over time. Being stalked by an ex. I pulled up to my house for months and the first thing I did was check if it had been vandalized or if she was parked nearby watching me. She randomly ran into me or my friends at dozens of places for months. Way more than would have happened by chance. Harassing phone calls at all hours. Pretty soon I was loony and seeing the boogeyman behind every tree. You don't know the outcome and start expecting the worst. It gets full on crazy. Cancer. I never knew anyone going through cancer, so my expectations were based off of what I had seen in the media. I was prepared to be constantly nauseous, but I didn't know my entire body would be in physical agony. I had bone pain, which is just complete suffering. The nausea was actually well managed with Zofran. I also thought my biggest issue psychologically would be fear of dying, or fear of a painful death. The biggest burden was actually just how devastating it was to be that physically vulnerable. I couldn't even take out my trash or even walk around the grocery store without stopping to lean against something. I was completely helpless. I wasn't expecting the staring and the awkward interactions, although I certainly don't begrudge people for not knowing how to react when a young person looks like they are dying. On a positive note, I didn't realize people would be so kind and understanding. I didn't realize that other people had such big hearts, even strangers. For example, I posted a question on our cancer asking if insurance would cover a wig. Someone messaged me and offered to buy me one. It was a traumatic experience overall, but I am grateful to be alive, and I would prefer no one else know how awful it is. Growing up with a narcissist parent. People really don't get why I can't love my mother. They think it's unnatural. They also assume that all mothers are wonderful and deserving of their child's love. Mum passed away in 2011. I felt relief that I no longer had to deal with her poisonous actions toward me. I don't post a Mother's Day crap on FB and I've gotten so much flack about it from people. They seem to think that just because she's dead, I should forgive her and speak only good about her. To be honest, I rarely speak of her at all, usually only when asked. But I refuse to minimize the damage she caused during her life by creating false images of a loving mother. My mother didn't love me in her own way. She didn't love me at all. I've accepted that fact. I am recovering from it too. I just wish more people understood what that feels like. Being a woman or being a man. I really can't explain what it's like to be a woman, mainly because I have no other experience to compare it to. Perhaps this is why conversations about gender get all nasty sometimes. Why, as a victim of domestic abuse, I didn't run straight to the police and press charges. I received so much crap for this from my family. They love me, but they don't understand what the trauma of being held hostage and sexually enslaved does to a person. Of course I'd love him to pay for what he did and never hurt another woman like that again. Of course I have guilt, but at the time, my entire body was enflamed with the fires of the heck I went through. All I could think once I escaped was that I just wanted the burning to stop. Chronic illness. Oftentimes, if your illness is not visible, or something serious such as cancer, etc., people think you're not really sick. It's rough, especially when you have to constantly try to explain and or justify your symptoms. I've tried explaining it like this. Whenever I say that I'm tired, just imagine the sleepiest, most fatigued you've ever been. Then multiply that by 100. Coming out. It's like this weird, life-altering process that happens with only a few words. The first time you say it to somebody else is both freeing and absolutely terrifying. Deja vu is a weird thing. Hard to explain to people that I feel like I've already lived through this exact moment before. Especially when you can't even place just what it is about this moment that's triggering it. Being on the brink of death. A few years ago I needed emergency surgery because of a dental abscess. I was initially admitted on a Sunday evening and told I'd likely be operated on Tuesday, Wednesday, but I severely deteriorated overnight Sunday to the point where I was vomiting. Except I couldn't vomit because the abscess was at that point blocking my throat, so choking, hallucinating, my temperature was 40 degrees, and couldn't eat. So I was rushed in for surgery first thing Monday morning, and according to the doctors, if they had waited longer I wouldn't have made it. Using Heelys. No one can appreciate the rush of overwhelming joy one gets when they roll through Stop and Shop on Heelys to pick up some oatmeal. Depression and suicidal ideation. If I hear someone say permanent solution to a temporary problem, I kind of want to punch them in the throat. And the kind of don't want to kill myself, but would be more than alright with dying feeling, though I'm not sure if that'd be classed under suicidal ideation or not. Mental illness. I really do not want to be one of those but the whole I am so blah blah illness, or I feel blah blah, is so dang annoying. My favorite to hear was I have clinical anxiety, but I never been to a doctor to confirm it. I am not so crazy I need pills or anything like dude. It's sickening the way people think having some sort of illness makes you cool and deep and complex. Having OCD. That it's not a quirky personality trait, but an actual illness that ruins people's lives. When people hear of it, they automatically associate it with tidiness, the need to color coordinate, and stuff like that. Nobody ever imagines washing your hands until they bleed, checking if the door is locked 20+ times before you go to sleep, having to follow the same pointless rituals every single day of your life, because your brain is telling you that your entire family will die of cancer if you don't, etc. Addiction. No, you can't just stop. Yes, I'm aware that it is illegal and not good for me. Yes, I know I should stop. Only way I've ever been able to explain it to someone is that itch you get after you are bit by an ant that you know you shouldn't scratch, but you do anyway. Sometimes until it starts to bleed. Sometimes I fall off the wagon hard enough that I wind up bleeding. It's never pretty and usually ends up costing a lot of money and anguish. Chronic pain. I've had 3 herniated discs, C5, C7, and one of them was pinching a nerve. I had to get a standing desk for work at the time because I could barely sit down for 30 minutes on those piece of crap chairs at work. A lot of people who would walk past my office would make some stupid comment about how did I get that desk and accommodations if I look fine on the outside. I was literally suffering for 24 hours at a time. I could barely sleep, driving was a nightmare, and sitting, standing or laying down all hurt, but some people just couldn't understand because they can't see it. Being a loser for many years and never growing up because of no motivation to do anything and being marginally happy during it because of distractions. Not being able to retain friends. People don't understand what it's like having all your friends just drift away no matter what you do. I've lost the ability to think positive things about myself or approach people. Gaslighting. It has different stages to it, but it breaks your brain right from the beginning. Imagine that you've just seen someone do something right before your eyes. You confront them, ask them why they did it, and with the straightest face, the unwavering eye contact, the calmest voice, they tell you that they didn't do that. Not like you saw it. Something else happened entirely. At first, there's still a giant part of you that says I just saw you. No, you didn't. They give you a little indulgent smile, envelop you in a hug, ruffle your hair and say you're a weird one. That's where the first break occurs. I mean, crap. I swear I just saw that, but their reaction is so natural, they're so convincing in their argument, and seriously, when someone gets caught doing something, they generally look guilty and don't try to pretend it didn't happen. Therefore, I must have been mistaken. And then it happens again, and again, with each occurrence. That voice you have that tells you they're wrong. It gets smaller, less certain. Meanwhile, their voice gets stronger. It patronizes you, starts telling you that you're seriously messed up and paranoid. Eventually it gets to the point where you stop mentioning the things you catch them doing. There's no point anymore. All that's going to happen is they're going to deny it, give you an alternate version, and then start criticizing you for totally unrelated issues. Instead of you being able to say no, I saw you, you've suddenly been thrown into something else. Them. Why did you talk to that guy last week? You. How what guy? Them. You know which guy. Suddenly, your brain is preoccupied with working out what they're talking about. Who did I speak to? Was I too friendly? Which one out of the 20 guys that he's told me never to talk to have I run across in the past week? Is it someone new? Surely he doesn't mean my cousin? An hour or more and 3 different topics later, you've lost the energy. You don't even remember what it was that started the conversation. You apologize for all the things they've accused you of. You're so incredibly confused. Nothing in your head is making sense and you are emotionally exhausted. You don't trust your memory anymore. You just go along with whatever they say about anything. This is a truly excellent description of what is, indeed, a very difficult to understand process. Everyone likes to believe that they are the very personification of rationalism, that they would never allow someone to tell them that black is white without concrete proof. They believe it up until someone jolts them into realizing they've been swallowing straight bulls and calling it bread. An eating disorder. It's next to impossible to explain the anxiety, self-esteem issues, and sheer confusion I've had over the past 10 years. It truly takes over a person's life. When I was younger I wasn't happy with my body, but now I'm 24 and genuinely really ecstatic with my body. I love how I look, and I'm a healthy weight finally. When I reached that point of being content though, everything only got more confusing. Skipping meals no longer became a means to lose weight, but my obsession with food remained. My anxiety over eating remained. I had no idea what was wrong with me or how to fix it. I'm currently in recovery, and it's better than it ever has been before. I genuinely think this time might mark the end of my struggle. I will always sympathize with anybody going through food struggles, whether overeating or undereating. Repressed memories of rape or abuse in childhood which come in flashes or incomplete memories. Trying to explain to someone that you have been raped but don't know by who or exactly when is horrible. How being autistic really is not something I can turn off and on, and it takes a lot of willpower some days to be as functional as I am. Losing someone close to you at a young age. It's a completely different experience than losing someone when you're older. When I was 7 years old, my best friend died of a heart defect. I think she was 8. It happened over summer vacation, just after first grade, and she was disabled, didn't have a ton of friends, so it was isolating. But that wasn't that bad. The adults in my life, they were bad, not on purpose, but it was just terrible. A kid going through severe grief is an extremely uncomfortable thing for a grown-up to see. We idolize childhood, see it as innocent and untroubled, and when an event like that breaks the illusion, adults just have no idea what to do. They don't know what to say or how to comfort the kid, so often they just don't. I got no advice, no I'm sorry for your loss, nothing. Instead, the grown-ups in my life took one of two paths. Some tried to get me back to normal and asked me questions about meaningless, everyday stuff. Pro tip: if my best friend just died of heart failure, I don't really want to tell you about my summer camps and art projects. My dad was the worst. He dragged my mom and I to a family reunion the weekend after it happened and got upset that I wasn't having fun. No crap, I wasn't having fun. Some tried to comfort me by telling me all about their religion. Might have worked for their kids, but I was raised an atheist. They also got upset when I said I didn't believe in heaven. No one got mad at me, but I got a lot of "oh that's a horrible thing to say" comments. Basically, I was forced to spend all my time managing their feelings, making sure they felt good about having helped the poor little child. I had to work through my own grief alone. completely. When my grandfather died a couple years ago, the experience was totally different. Everyone was completely understanding. Older co-workers sat down and talked with me about their first time losing someone close to them. Family came in and told me, it's okay to need time to yourself. Do what you need to get through this. My friends checked in to make sure I was okay. 24 is an acceptable age to lose someone for the first time. When I told people about my friend that I'd been through this before, they got awkward again. That got long. Didn't mean for it to be quite that extensive. It's just been on my mind lately. I saw an article on the Washington Post opinion site that hit the nail on the head. TLDR. Funerals aren't an appropriate place to talk about glitter. Jail. Seriously, it's awful. Total sensory deprivation. Maddening boredom. Unlike prison, in a jail cell you get nothing. Police confiscate your shoes, belt, phone, wallet, anything you could harm yourself with. No windows, no bars to look out of. You're locked in a concrete box with a steel door and a tiny peephole for the police to look through every few hours. Time stands still. Nobody to talk to. Nothing. Being unattractive or even just average looking to a conventionally attractive person. They just don't understand that their world is not everyone's world. My sister practically has people stumbling over themselves to give her opportunities and praise. It's kind of gross to see firsthand. Actually, as a cute but chubby girl, we look nothing alike and wouldn't even if I was her size. She takes over dad's side of the family while I'm the spitting image of my mom and her mom. I'm firmly in the pretty but will never be hot category. Not that she is undeserving of everything that comes her way, but the praise is frequently disproportionate to the action. She also treats her boyfriends like crap because she knows she can have a new one next week. And she does. It's weird to watch. I'm successful and in a happy long-term relationship, so I'm not particularly bitter. It's just annoying watching her live in this ideal world. She was shocked and quite offended when I joked that she was lucky she was young, cute and female when she ran off with a kid at a park to go play with him out of sight of his parents, and they didn't flip crap. They did WTF a little. Because WTF. LOL. Specific disease reactions, such as the choking of achalasia. It's not really choking, but it is a sensation that I can assure you. No, you don't know what it feels like because you get bad heartburn sometimes. Hypothetical you, not you, the person reading this. Domestic violence. Whenever my 2-year physical and verbal abusive relationship ended, he got arrested for shooting me. Everyone would ask, why did you stay? How did you love him? How could you ever let a man hit you, etc. It's so hard to explain the emotional manipulation to those who have never been through it. I have 3. Being in combat or fighting for your life. I have been in several fight or possibly die situations throughout my life, and I was also in the military in a combat position and have been in many very close calls with death. No one can possibly understand what it is like to go through that unless you have actually been through it. I don't wish it on anyone, but I hate it when people try telling me now that really isn't necessary, or you could have tried talking them down. It most definitely does not work like that at all. Chronic insomnia. It's not as easy as people think it is to function off of 2-3 hours of broken up sleep a night, especially when you work 12 hours days doing light heavy labor. Sometimes it's several nights with 0 sleep. People always think it's not possible to function off that much sleep, or it's the other way around, and your employer thinks they can put you on call all night long after working all day, running road calls all night, then wants you to work 2 back-to-back shifts the morning after road calls, thinking I don't need to sleep because I can't. Constantly vigilant. Due to how I was raised, my life experiences, and simply my nature, I am constantly on guard. I always make sure I know where exits are. I always have some sort of plan no matter what I am doing, or where I'm at. I am very blunt and loud with people who are acting off towards me or looking for trouble. This helps prevent an actual problem happening. I carry a gun all the time. I also have no problem taking someone down who is acting with intent to harm. When you go through the things I have in my life, you know what people will do over anything, no matter how big or small, and you learn the signs very quickly and it's stamped in your memory permanently. People call me paranoid, or they say I'm always looking for trouble, but every single situation I have been in, the other person that I end up in some sort of confrontation with has always been a previous criminal, and was actively trying to either rob, harm, kill, something they shouldn't be doing. And I was the targeted victim. Or someone with me. I have only had one person who didn't have a record but was found out to be hanging out with a group of people who were all part of the same gang. He was trying to get initiated into it. This one specifically pisses me off. Especially when something actually does happen and there is some freaking sea butthole standing there being nosy after it all happened, judging me like I did something wrong. And usually saying all that wasn't necessary, you could have just walked away. Yay, because a thug isn't going to stab you in the back. Typical idiots who have never once in their life been in anything more than a heated discussion. Having your family forcibly torn apart, everything you had robbed at gunpoint, and abandoned children you took in and raised with your own sweat and blood taken away, all by the actions of the communist government of your grandfather's home country. Getting hit in the testicles. It's not just painful, there's something else about it. It's debilitating and nauseating. It's very hard to describe. You should try getting punched in the liver. An asthma attack. I had a friend who tried to tell my asthma was all in my head. He never understood the slow, sometimes fast, feeling of your lungs closing, the back pain, and the doing anything you can to keep breathing fear of dying until you can reach an inhaler or a hospital. A psychotic episode, especially being aware something isn't right but not being able to stop feeling the way you feel, hearing things and seeing things that aren't there. I've had lots of people try to say they've experienced similar things on drugs, but they were basically accepting something crazy happening, and after the trip their lives went falling apart. The loss of a child. The pain and heartache is so huge. Literally a part of your soul is gone. I didn't even know a person can feel their soul until I lost my daughter. Now there's a void that is felt every day. I can't explain it better than that. You're living half your life because you know part of you is gone and you are just left waiting for the day you can be with them again. The death of a parent. People who haven't gone through the trauma of your mom or dad dying simply don't understand how it can frick you up in so many ways. You follow your mother's ambulance to the emergency room, and then 45 minutes later, the doctor tells you they have been unsuccessful in attempting to revive her. You are the one who has to agree that they discontinue their efforts. You hear the doctor announce, time of death 12:21 p.m. Sight. It is pretty much impossible to describe sight to someone that has never been able to see, especially when it comes to colors. Being shunned by your entire community and family and circle of friends from a high control religion, cult. I'm a former Jehovah's Witness and haven't seen my own family in 4 years because I simply decided I didn't believe anymore. This is also common to Mormons and Scientologists, and it's awful. I got hit by a car a few weeks ago and I've been hospitalized since, commenting from bed right now. The actual accident was indescribable. I realized I was being hit without ever actually seeing the car, and the pain is unbearable for about 30 seconds and suddenly completely gone. Went through 9 surgeries, resuscitated twice, 7 intubations, periods of time I didn't eat for 3 or 4 days because I had a breathing tube down my throat. I'm in rehab now after 6 weeks of hospitalization and it's unbelievably difficult learning how to do the most basic things, like using the toilet and even just standing. Just the realization that you're lucky to even be alive is something I could never describe. 2/10 do not recommend. Getting stabbed by your daughter's mother while holding daughter, dying from internal bleeding, resuscitated, waking up in hospital and being told your kidney was filleted and removed, not being able to join military, lifelong dream, as a result. Panic attacks. Before I started having them, I just imagined them as these moments of feeling overwhelmed, or stress out, you know, like when you feel really on edge and nervous, like you're at a party where you don't know anyone. When I was 19 I got my first one, having no idea what it was, and thought I was having a heart attack and that I was going to die. I sat in a tunnel downtown, scrunched up in a ball, completely unable to breathe or see straight, waiting to die. What felt like 20 minutes later, I started feeling normal again, and ran home, hoping I could get to a phone before it happened again so I could call a paramedic. But when it didn't happen again, I just sat in my room with the lights out, confused, crying and wondering what had just happened. I don't think anybody can really understand what it's like until they have one. Shifting a paradigm. When you grow in such a way that you no longer see things the same way you did before. Not just learning a new thing or seeing a new perspective logically, but having a complete change of perspective of your own through experience. Many people have experienced a paradigm shift, but it's definitely something you have to experience to get. Being an introvert. I genuinely enjoy being alone or just around my immediate family. I'm not rude or being antisocial just to be rude. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.